When Googling best Linux distros, it's easy to notice that not only are the suggestions absolute garbage, but also no one seems to know what version of Linux is actually the best. It seems like everyone has a different opinion, and the only things that are consistently on the list is Ubuntu, really. But why? It's either because the writers don't care at all, or what I think, which is that it's just difficult to choose the best Linux distro for every user. Each person uses their computer differently than the other. One guy could be a terminal god who has memorized every command, but grandma might just want to check her email. There's no distribution that can please everyone. The best way to use Linux is to use it the way it should be. Use what fits your needs the best. So, which is the best option for you? Below, you should see segments detailing the best options for each main type of user. Either click on that or just watch through. Anyway, let's begin. So you're new to Linux. Where do you start? What's the best choice for you? Well, there's 5 main options for you, or at least that's what I see. 1 is Ubuntu, 2 is Mint, 3 is Manjaro, 4 is Zorin, and 5 is Kubuntu. So let's talk about Ubuntu. No matter what place you go to, one thing that is always a recommendation is Ubuntu. It's moderately easy to use, but most importantly, it is the most popular option, meaning a lot of documentation is available to you. I don't like it. I don't know. There's just something about the GNOME desktop environment that I find absolutely stupid. For those of you who don't know what GNOME is a desktop environment. A desktop environment is basically like the user interface, like everything you see on my screen right here. This is all the desktop environment right here. Like, it's everything you interact with, really. Like, Microsoft tried making your PC into a tablet with Windows 8. It failed. So why is GNOME trying to do that same thing? Honestly, as much as I like Ubuntu, it's held back by GNOME, and we'll get into how to get around that in a minute. Your next best option is Linux Mint with the Cinnamon desktop environment. If you're okay with losing a bit of beauty, Linux Mint is for you. It looks terrible, but you can get over that. Install a theme and you're on your way. Another good option is Manjaro, which I don't recommend because it's based off of Arch Linux. And typically Arch is for people who really know what they're doing. Documentation will be scarce because of that. But past that one issue, it's probably the best out of all of these. Next is Zorin OS, which if you watched me before, you know I love this thing. It is based off of Ubuntu, which gets you a lot of documentation. It uses GNOME, but they improved it to a point that I would even daily drive it. It's focused on being easy to use and looking good. To new users, this is the go-to. And then there is Kubuntu. So Kubuntu is just Ubuntu, but with the KDE Plasma desktop environment, which is actually what I'm running here, but it's not Kubuntu, it's actually Arch. Honestly, I don't understand why Ubuntu hasn't switched their mainline releases to KDE, because the only real downside is the settings menu being a bit iffy. If you want a simple, easy setup with the best features, you'll want Kubuntu. So there you go. Ubuntu is for peasants. Mint is for people who don't mind a theme or two if it means a better user experience. Manjaro is for people that don't mind getting under the hood a bit. Zorin is for people who really like the layout of Windows. And Kubuntu is for human beings. I'd personally recommend either Zorin or Kubuntu. So how about the tech, how do I put this, the tech illiterate? So you want your grandpa to switch to Linux. Anyone who is tech illiterate can actually probably be very easily switched over. I mean, for looking up stuff in a web browser and editing a few documents, Linux is probably easier to use than Windows. People like my dad that just use his laptop for a quick Google search and maybe editing a few documents would be an amazing person to switch over. So where do you start? I recommend getting someone with some tech know-how to set it up and show you the ropes if you want to install it. But after that, it's really easy. For someone who doesn't know much about tech, Zorin OS and Linux Mint are perfect for you. Mint has the issue of looking like it was made in the 90s, so Zorin OS is the perfect starting point for a tech illiterate user. You can install this on your grandparents' laptop and they might not even notice. Tell them you updated them to Windows 11 and they won't suspect a thing. So you've grown out of things like Ubuntu and Zorin and you're looking for a better option. Listen, dude. I'm sorry, man. It's time to stop wearing the diapers. It's time to stop with the training wheels. What do you pick? So with Linux, in many cases, the more difficulty, the more features. If you're on an Arch-based system, you get the AUR, one of the best package management systems of all time, but you'll probably need to spend a lot of time on setup and go under the hood a bit. In general, it works this way. The more you do, the more you get back. So you want to move away from Ubuntu. What should you move to? I always recommend an Arch-based system for anyone that knows what they're doing. Once again, the AUR is killer. The rolling release system demolishes Debian, and there's just many, many more benefits. For Arch-based systems, there are less tutorials, but you can probably figure it out easily. So what is best for users like this? I recommend EndeavourOS due to its unbloated approach to the Linux desktop. Alternately, Manjaro and Garuda are great options also. Manjaro is really, really good. Manjaro makes Arch Linux accessible to a new user and it works great. Garuda is beautiful. In general, the only real benefit from one distro to the other is a few small features, so it's entirely your choice. I always recommend the KDE Plasma desktop environment because it is beautiful and works very well, as you can see here. To the gods of technology, the people who could configure a GPU pass-through in their sleep, the people who could install Linux on their phone, there is no better option than Arch Linux. If you know everything you need to know about Linux and you want even more granular control over your PC, Arch Linux is perfect. There are many great benefits to using Arch Linux. Just ask me someone who uses it every day. The AUR is great for applications. The open nature allows you to do basically whatever you want, and so much more. And more importantly, you can say, I use Arch, by the way. See? Gotta flex somehow. Now, there's also Gentoo for the absolute best of the best, and to be honest, I don't get why people rave about it so much. It lets you have the absolute most customizability and granular control, but in my opinion, it's not worth all the time you have to invest into it. If you like it, good for you, but I'm not comfortable with recommending it. If you want to go God mode, use Arch Linux. Gamers are one of, if not the most difficult suggestions to make. Gamers will almost certainly want to dual boot on their machine if they want to run Linux and still have games run. And for the few that will run through things like emulation, there will be hiccups along the way. If you will just continue gaming exclusively on Windows and do everything else on Linux, which I imagine will be the most popular choice, check out the other sections of this video to find out what is best for you. If you want to actually try gaming on Linux, here's what you'll want. Pop! OS is great for gamers with many features like NVIDIA ISOs, which I won't get to in this video. It is a default choice for Linux gamers. Linux Mint is pretty lightweight and a great option also. If you want to dedicate as much performance to games as possible, you'll want something with the XFCE desktop environment. For that, EndeavourOS XFCE is easily the best option available to you. XFCE is lightweight and not bloated, allowing for a great experience. Also, yeah, I've mentioned it a lot, but Zorin OS Lite is amazing for performance, and it actually looks good. Gamers should consider dual booting, but if you like the challenge, I recommend Pop! OS or EndeavourOS. I hope this video can help you pick what distribution of Linux is right for you. If you still aren't sure what's best for you, try a bunch of different options. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.